Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Leadership Insights conversation. It's me, Christine. I'm here with Florian again. Hi, Florian.
Hi.
The beauty of digital age, where we can talk with each other about interesting topics, even though we're not even in the same country. For everyone who doesn't know who I am, I'm Christine. I'm the CEO and founder of Let's Talk, a company that unlocks entrepreneurial spirit in bigger organizations through internal communication training. And over to you, Florian. Who are you, for everyone who doesn't know who you are?
Hi, my name is Florian. I'm the founder of Flow Starter, and I help people developing teams to units and develop them to high potential teams and individuals.
Awesome. So what are we
Today,
today? Yeah.
exactly. And today we're speaking about self-awareness and how significant it is for increasing revenue and even the output of the whole organization and its organization's success. So
And
let
of
me show
course, we
you a slide.
also have like a study and a report behind all of that. And that's the Arbinger Culture Report 2024. Florian, do you want to quickly read out what it says there?
Yes, companies described as strong and adaptable by employees are nearly 3 times more likely to see significant revenue increases and 2 times more likely to have a positive outlook on their organization's success.
Yes. And what else it's saying? It's saying it's prioritizing actually the employee development, creates more self-aware, accountable, and adaptable employees. And that's exactly what you see here and exactly what we want to talk about today.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So, do you want to start?
Yes, I can. So what we've seen here and self-awareness, I think maybe we can start actually on how difficult it can be to be self-aware. To know who you actually are is anyway a more philosophical question maybe that people go on their different journeys, but being self-aware in your job, in your role as a leader, even not leader, and as a team member, whoever you are within that company, can be very difficult because we get feedback from others that see us the way we are. They interpret the way we are. It depends on how well they know us, how they don't know us, and they create an image of us as people that we might not be and that we might not want to be, but that we give out and that people receive through actions and words and things that we're doing. And I think it's really important to be self-aware, and that's why we're talking about this today, especially when you're leading a team, on what are your strengths, what are things you might want to improve, how people see you as a leader, and how that is important.
Absolutely. The thing is, when I start talking about self-awareness, some people might think it's some kind of esoteric self-development thing, but actually it's not, because self-awareness is the strength or the power of being self-reflective also equals on which kind of decisions you do. Because self-awareness and self-reflection also comes back to challenging your barriers and your biases. It's about how do I see things? How do I interpret things? It's about seeing things from the outside and helps you to accomplish your goals more easy. It's about challenging your behaviors. It's about challenging your model of the world. Basically, we call it the landscape. How do you see everything that comes your way? So when even McKinsey now starts talking about self-awareness and self-reflection, saying that they were actually, I think, make a study with 500 companies, and they found out that the companies with the best revenue streams and the, like, let's say, most steady income is where leaders, mid-level managers, as well as executives are more self-reflective and are more self-aware.
Absolutely. And I absolutely love what you said, because in the end, it's all interpretation on how we take things in. And everyone else that listens to us is reflecting and interpreting what we're saying. We're all biased in different ways, even without knowing it. And like you said, it's not an esoteric thing. And I really like, and that's why we pull out these studies to show you it's not us just saying this. It's showing that there's actual figures behind it and that it has an impact, not just on the health and well-being and the self-development, because if you're more self-aware, you know where you might want to improve, you know what you can't do and what you can do, because no one can do all and no one knows it all. But it also has an effect on the organization and the turnover of the company, simply because you're self-aware, you know what you have to improve, you can improve it, and that will help to achieve, like Florian said, the goal faster that you have within that organization, that then helps the organization to achieve their goal.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because in the past, I would argue that self-awareness and self-reflection also goes along with your level of empathy. But it's not me only saying this anymore, because now, since this topic becomes really hot, since, let's say, AI is coming very strong on us, there's a lot of things, a lot of skills that in the future will be obsolete. So now McKinsey and Arbinger and a lot of different companies, HR reports now go on the topic of empathy, of psychological safety, of inclusion, of culture. Like all these things are related, because when you as a leader, it doesn't matter in which level, hierarchical or vertical you are, it's about when you are self-reflective, you are aware of yourself, you start being more empathetic towards other people, you understand better how to position them. So what is your skills? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where do I have to put you? What should be the tasks that you're doing and which shouldn't you do, because it's really not your strongest suit. And also knowing all these things is when let's say I recognize something within myself, or I see myself from within through self-inspection, I can also sense those things in you. You know, it requires this kind of sensing inside us to feel what's going on in the others. Yeah. And when you can do that, you know where the other person is at the moment. How do the other person feel? Is this person actually ready to take on that task? You can see it, you can feel it, saying, is there maybe something wrong today? Should we talk about something? Let's take 5 minutes outside before we start with the meeting, before we go into a debate or in a very important call with someone. So all these things are related to how you know yourself. And I believe, like what I said before, when AI now is coming more and more and more on numbers, tasks, and everything that comes with something that the AI can do, you are not really so relevant anymore when it comes to those things. But what's relevant now is human-centric leadership. It's about how to figure out who is best for what and who do I actually need and how do I position them. So it's all about systemic and structural things that you can do through being aware what's going on within you and with others.
Absolutely love that. Because it's so true. If you're self-aware and you're aware of your emotions, because we're all people, humans, you were talking about AI, I'm going to respond to that in a second as well. But we should, as leaders, develop this empathy skills, emotional intelligence, whatever you want to call that. But for that, you need to be self-aware and you need to be aware of the other people. You need to be able to interpret your own feelings and emotions, and you need to be able to interpret other people's emotions. And exactly like Florian just said, maybe take a break before starting a meeting because you're not in that emotional state, or the other person is not in the emotional state at the moment, or maybe that person is not ready to take on a specific task because of something that happened. And I remember we mentioned that also in the other conversation that we had, that the personal life is affecting the business life. And also what you mentioned about AI there. Absolutely. I'm just reading a book as well, where it's about being AI ready as a leader. And in there, it was saying exactly the same thing. AI will not necessarily replace the jobs. Some maybe yes, but there's certain things that AI cannot do, and that has to do with empathy. It doesn't understand it. It can't judge certain things because it doesn't understand morale. It doesn't understand certain ironic things. Maybe the way we interpret, and picking up on that point that we mentioned at the beginning, on someone's body language, facial expressions, and the tone of voice they're saying things. That's something that AI yet cannot do, to then take that as something sarcastic, for example, that someone said. It just takes it as a literal question that someone is doing. And combined with that, exactly, also what you also touched on is the decision making. And so that it doesn't make you only a better leader to be self-aware and understand emotions and have empathy, because it helps you to understand your team better, but it helps you to also detach from your emotions that you have in that moment and make more judgment in a more, let's say, non-emotional way, or being at least aware, taking a step back and saying, I'm going to take this decision tomorrow because I'm not in the state of mind. All comes down to self-awareness.
I love that what you just said, because when we believe we're not impaired by emotions or impacted by emotions, then usually what happens is we're the more impaired by it because we are unaware of it. So the more aware we are, the more influence we have, and the more we can say, we can communicate them also. We can say, look, this is how I feel today. This is what's going on. So I set the stage, and I don't send mixed signals, which is when I try to mask something and say everything is okay, I'm fine, okay. You know, it's like we lose other people. There's distrust, there's uncertainty, this kind of thing. And another thing is when you may ask yourself, why do I have to feel myself? I can learn about empathy in any other book that I read. I find that very funny because I come across that statement very often working with people that very blue on the disc model, like very structured, very organized, very rational. And they say emotions have no place on the business. It usually sounds like this when people tell me that, like, I'm talking to someone and in the moment I'm thinking about my book, Empathy, How You Do Empathy, page 90. This is how I have to respond right now. In that moment, when you think that you know empathy by reading about it, basically you're thinking about or referring to what you were reading about, but you're not present. You're not in the moment. You're not on what we call deep listening, where you really connect with others. So you actually already lost the other person while you are rationalizing about what is the perfect or right or appropriate thing to do or to say right now. So this is the reason why we have to engage with emotions more often, because now we are aware of them and now we can sense them in others without thinking about something else. We can be 100% present in the moment with someone, and this is how we build trust. And trust is, I think, the number one, how to say, strength or thing that you need to build up a high-performing team. Trust is the basic thing that everything is built up on, because how will you ever be able to talk about the hard stuff, you know, to without other people taking it personally and feel criticized, or people avoid conversations or avoiding speaking up the truth and all these kind of things. So I believe trust is the foundation for everything that you need to build up. And that comes through listening, through empathizing, and really connecting with other people.
Yes. Yeah, and to admit and be self-aware what maybe you need to improve as a leader as well. It doesn't mean that you have to tell your employees or your teammates, oh, I have to improve on that. I know it's not about that. But if they see you as a human being, that you have emotions and you're self-aware and you're improving yourself, and usually people in leadership positions want to constantly improve themselves, and they have to. That's when they can start building that trust. When you start investing your time in understanding them better, where this plays in as well, is really, really important. And another thing that I wanted to mention as well is that not only for you and the team members and the organization, it's great. It's also about building really flexibility and resilience, because if you are not self-aware when your energy goes down or you start going towards a burnout, then you can't step on the brakes and do something about it before you arrive there. Bouncing back from a burnout is really difficult, and you don't want to do that. And we know as a leader in companies, you have enormous responsibilities and goals to meet of the company, and it's always there that you have to fulfill certain company goals. However, you need to look after yourself as well whilst you do that, because only like that you can be a great leader, let's say, and stand out.
Yeah.
And to be able to understand that, you need to understand yourself and be self-aware.
That is so important what you just said, because working with executives and people in this kind of field for 10 years, I have brought people back from burnouts, and it takes a while. It's something you really don't want to get into. And it's this kind of self-awareness that teaches us where our limits are, when to stop and when to go, what is enough and what has to be enough. And it also increases our adaptability to everything, to the changing situations or environments that now happens like every day. Something is new. How do you adapt to something new? How do you develop the flexibility? Is basically through self-awareness, because self-awareness is kind of like a feedback loop that always gives you internal and external feedback to, is this the right step? Do I have to correct my step? You know, it's like, putting it in another example, before we did strategies, like they were 10-year strategies, 25-year strategies, what we're going to do with the business, where we're going to drive it. And now we're working with OKRs, and we change strategies monthly or quarterly. And again, to understand those behaviors of the market and how to adapt to the market is also about being self-aware and aware of what others bring to the table. It's about communication again. It's about reading the floor, reading all different kinds of hierarchical structures, like talking with everyone in the company and understanding everyone and getting feedback from everywhere to understand where you actually have to go. I've seen so many times that people don't have this kind of self-awareness or awareness in general to listen to what's really going on. And they just say, okay, we make a decision here and there. And they lose the opportunity to actually get all the feedback that is available in the company. And mostly it's when you are in C-level that there's this break in communication and connection between C-level and lower level management, or even people who are on the street, like working and getting shit done, sorry to say. But this is often the most valuable feedback that you can collect in a C-level, to understand what's really going on. What are the challenges out there? What are our strongest suits? Not what we believe it is, but when it comes back from the customers, from the clients, and from the people that really work on the clients, what do they tell me is really going on in the company? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What should we stop doing? What should we start doing? Or what should we, I don't know, continue? So all this comes back to self-awareness and adaptability, flexibility, and then this drives accountability.
Like you mentioned, I mean, trust, because giving that feedback and giving that feedback and receiving that feedback requires trust in the relationship between the team leaders and the rest of the team. They need to feel safe, and this is what you and we can create basically through what we were just talking, everything that we were saying. Basically, it is building that trust. It is being self-aware, building that trust, so they feel safe and they can actually speak up if they feel like something is not right. And this also means then you create a company culture, and that was our previous conversation about, where they feel safe and where they can innovate, be creative, because they don't feel like they are pushed into like a little drawer and you need to stay there. It's safe to give feedback because there was this trust, because they are self-aware of themselves as well. So if you as a leader are self-aware, you can also help them to become more self-aware, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the missing link. to the psychological safety again, there's another, I'd say, a lever of this thing is basically when it's not just about us. We are in executive levels that are self-aware and self-reflective, but when we actually teach those things to our mid-level managers, there is an increase in, I don't know how many percent. There's also in the Arbinger report, you find that people say the reliability goes up, productivity goes up, proactiveness gets up, accountability goes up, inclusion goes up, the collaboration goes up, self-awareness, like communication, all these things are really related with one another. And it all comes back to one thing: my power, my strength of being reflective and seeing things how they really are, and not how am I biased and what I believe or want to see.
Absolutely. And one thing that I would like to add, because we're talking about self-awareness, of course, other things that influence that, or the ripple effect of being self-aware. And I mean, all leaders have to do annual performance reviews. We were talking about high-performing teams, and the questions that always are asked in that. So, what do you think you've done well this year? What do you think there's things that you might want to improve on? All these are questions where someone needs to be self-aware. So how amazing would that be if you as a leader developed this self-awareness, this empathy also, and helped your employees, your team members to become more self-aware, that these performance reviews are made very easy and it doesn't come as a surprise to them for certain things. But then again, and we don't go into that topic now, but there's no point doing an annual performance review and then leave them for a year. It's about constantly communicating and having this open company culture, that psychological safety, where people can have regular updates, where they can talk about things, how they're going on, and how they're getting on as well, to improve throughout the year, not just once a year. But the self-awareness, if you think about it, in those review things, is the main thing. Everything else can be forgotten, but you have to be self-aware to be able to answer those questions.
And I'd say we're talking a lot about innovations, but when we talk about innovations, we always actually talk about some technical innovations. But what about self-innovation? So think about when you do an emotional update, when you do an update on your biases, on your beliefs, on all these things that guide you and your awareness and your judgment. So if you do this kind of update and self-innovation and you increase your adaptability, believe me, just think about how it drives your profits through the satisfaction that is increasing within your members, your team, your employees, your shareholders, your stakeholders, like everyone around the business is probably benefiting from your self-innovation and increase of adaptability.
And it all comes down, everyone needs high-performing teams, like you mentioned, and everything that we were just mentioning, the stats that we were showing at the beginning as well, and that we were mentioned as well, is that it comes down. One of the big factors is self-awareness, and it all ties nicely together. So I really like how this conversation is going, because it's really proving all of that. Do we have any other things that we wanted to mention? Any other stats? Can't think of any for now. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to mention, maybe from a neurological point of view as well.
Good. I didn't actually want to go that deep today. So I think we leave this for another conversation.
Yes, awesome. So I hope you found this conversation useful. I think there were lots of insights in there. So we talked about empathy, building trust, all coming down to self-awareness, helping others to be self-aware, which creates this continuous learning, the willingness to learn and to improve as a leader, and also for your team. We touched a bit on AI and how it really is out of that scope of being self-aware and empathy, and really interpreting certain body language movements, tone of voice, things like that. We talked even about burnout and how being self-aware can avoid being burned out as a leader, even though we have so much to do. and how it all impacts on the annual reviews that you have to do with your employees. So if you liked what you said, what you heard, what we said, then make sure you subscribe also to the YouTube channel if you like, and feel free to contact either of us if you want to go deeper into this topic and have another conversation. Florian, thank you so much for having a lovely conversation again with you.
Nice. I liked it.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.